Most
people have adapted and they're like, I have these tools to communicate directly with fans. And then you have this really elite sanctum of Hollywood, this really elite group of people. They don't speak ever unless they're at a red carpet or they're, it's a very staged production where they go on Jimmy Fallon or they go on Seth Meyers and they sit in the chair and they have 5 minutes of banter. And it's like, well, hey, you were in Italy recently. And there's nothing real about it. You were in Italy. I was in Italy when you were in Italy. You love when they do that. When somebody will be like, remember when we were both in Italy? It's so insane that this even still goes on. I mean, imagine watching this and having a real job. Imagine having a real job where, like, you're working in a factory and a guy next to you is like, I just got diagnosed with cancer. I don't know what to do. And you go home and you put on Jimmy Fallon and he's playing a game with Zac Efron. Like, so that's where these celebrities, that's the only time that they ever communicate with people is on these, like, late night shows, which are like a dystopian nightmare reality in which insanely wealthy people sit there and have meaningless conversations. Meaningless conversations
Out of touch establishment elites are doing everything in their power right now to distract you, and it's not working. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Okradowski of WeAreChange.org. Lots of utter, absolute absurdity developing in our society right now, with a bunch of unhinged lunatics being the loudest voices in our society. And that's why in this video, we are going to be giving you a critique of the mainstream media, which is so promoted and loved by YouTube on this platform, while of course talking about the disastrous situation unfolding with the breakdown of relations between Russia and the United States. Things, again, are getting very serious to the point that a lot of people, I think, are absolutely unaware of. So we're going to be focusing on that, plus a lot more. But before we do, the clip that we played in the beginning of this broadcast was a short clip from a full video from a YouTuber called Crying Shark. We're going to put the link to that video in the description, along, of course, with Tim Dillon's podcast, which the video was taken from. Really great video, really great podcast that gives you a very important perspective about the absolute delusion of the establishment entertainment Hollywood class. Now, one of the strangest, most disturbing things that I have seen on the internet today are the eyes of this man, an MSNBC commentator who says that he felt a wave of euphoria and emotions after getting his first shot, which let's just say is extremely bizarre, leaving a lot of people puzzled after this very aggressive virtue signal, which some people have characterized as the, quote, exact opposite of unplugging from the Matrix, while others had some other things to say that we're not going to be talking about in this video. But these are the thought leaders that the mainstream media and big tech social media promote to the general public the most. And then we wonder why people who trust the TV news and Facebook end up less informed about the current situation of the sickness than people who don't, as even according to a new research study at Penn State. Yes, we're going to be talking about this, by the way, as well as the big debate unfolding between Tucker Carlson and Dr. Fauci on specifically LukeUncensored.com. I'm going to be doing a full dedicated video on that platform exclusively for all of our members right after this video, so expect this video again, LukeUncensored.com. We're going to do a deep dive into this issue, plus a lot more. In related mainstream media creating massive social harm news, we of course have Minnesota on edge, and according to many people, ready to ignite at the end of the Derek Chauvin trial, which is going to be happening in just a few days. There was almost a mistrial today, and of course, Minnesota burned previously before, which CNN previously characterized as mostly peaceful protest. It's also important to note here that CNN, during the massive looting, the massive fires of private property, the massive amount of innocent people hurt, some even killed during these events, CNN cheered them on, with CNN's Chris Cuomo even excusing the violence, saying, quote, please show me where it says protesters are supposed to be polite and peaceful. He's also the same man that said that the Antifa tactics used here were, quote, for a good cause. And during these same protests, which CNN advocates for, promotes, obfuscates the reality from, they were attacked by the same protesters which they were cheering on not so long ago, and honestly still continue to cheer on, as you just saw one of their crew members be hit in the head with some sort of object. Now, also very interestingly, the network that praised these individuals was also chased away by these individuals from recent events in Minnesota, as they were forced to flee, as they were, of course, threatened and attacked with physical violence and had many items thrown at them. Now, I wonder why that didn't make it into the headline news or breaking news on CNN. Wonder why that hasn't gotten any significant coverage. Oh yeah, I do know why. Mainly because CNN is a larger propaganda network, as admitted by their own technical director from new Project Veritas videos that have been released the last 3 days. Today's video specifically noting and highlighting how CNN was obfuscating crime by blacks against Asians in order to promote BLM, Black Lives Matter, a part of the larger protest that beat the crap out of them and chased them away from the protests that were happening in Minnesota.
I was trying to do some research on like the Asian hate, like the people are getting attacked or whatever. A bunch of black men that have been attacking Asian. So I'm like, what are you doing? Like, we're trying to like help like with the BLM, and like you're gonna like, I mean, it's individuals, it's not a people, you know. That's not good. The optics of that are not good. These little things like that are enough to set back movements, you know.
So they care more about the movement rather than telling you the truth. The YouTube moderator that's on my ass like white on rice right now, hey, that's a network that you should flag. That's a network that you should demonetize, downrank in the algorithm, and make sure whenever they come up in any news-related events that they never show up in search results, just like you did to this channel. Holy freaking hell, are you kidding me? The level of behavior exemplified by CNN is akin to criminal behavior, as of course it's leading to massive crime and human suffering on levels that are still absolutely not fully understood. In related admitted propagandist news, we have the founder of BLM that was recently exposed to buying houses in predominantly white areas for herself, for her own personal well-being, who is now threatening a lawsuit against one of their own leading chapter members from the New York City organization after he called to investigate her finances. She also is saying anyone asking to investigate her or asking her for any transparency or an accountability is somehow racist in some way, shape, or form, which is absolutely, utterly ridiculous. And here on YouTube, they still openly call and promote and work with the BLM organization. They also openly work and collaborate with, of course, CNN. And that's why we launched LukeUncensored.com and a t-shirt store that's available on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. The link is in the description. Click on it right now. We just got a brand new shirt that says regulate your government, not your neighbor. We have a whole bunch of shirts, including the one that I'm wearing right now that says you had me at F the system, which gets me a lot of attention. Even if you have no interest at buying shirts at all, I would definitely recommend scrolling through it just to see some of the items that we have available for you. Lots of goodies, secret gems, all available. Thebestpoliticalshirts.com. Click the link in the description down below. Now, in yesterday's main video, we were talking about the larger geopolitical problems that have been emerging, that have been growing and pretty much escalating with the new Biden administration and, of course, Vladimir Putin and Russia. We told you that we hope things get better with diplomacy, but most likely they won't. Things will get worse, and they do. As already, of course, Ukrainian forces that are aligned with the United States, that are aligned with NATO, the European Union, are holding military drills, as of course Russia is doing the same. Now, in the U.S. Western mainstream media, we usually hear about how the Russian military is mobilizing and amassing on, of course, the Ukraine's border. But in reality, we also have to understand Ukraine, NATO, and the United States have also been amassing on Russia's border. This has been a tit-for-tat escalation that really seems grave, to the point that the United States even decided to not saber-rattle as aggressively and decided to cancel their deployment of warships to the Black Sea, which of course Russia warned them not to do and told them that there would be some very serious consequences if they did. Now, the U.S. military and Biden have decided not to go forward with this. This after allegedly another phone call that took place between Biden and Vladimir Putin. Now, it's also important to note here that the first phone call between these two world leaders was absolutely contentious, as Joe Biden called Putin a killer and then accused him of hacking that the U.S. intelligence agencies says never happened. Now, you are seeing a lot of videos and pictures of this mobilization of the military, and it is concerning. It is something to worry about, as of course this could be a precursor to another proxy conflict, which most likely will unfold, already is unfolding in some ways in Ukraine, but is most likely going to be expanding from here, sadly, and not to the benefit of anyone, but towards the detriment of the world, towards the people, especially the people of Ukraine and the people living in a lot of these contentious areas that already are not living in peace. Now, this news of the U.S. canceling their deployment of warships into the Crimea region, into the Black Sea, was revealed from Turkey. As we know, Vladimir Putin challenged Biden to an open, live conversation that was unscripted. Biden declined. Biden is now inviting Putin for a private conversation between the world leaders in a third country. Russia has still not answered back to that specific request, as of course the United States took one step back and also one step forward against Russia by also expelling their diplomats and imposing new sanctions against them just moments ago. This, of course, will make the situation a lot worse, will of course escalate tensions, as of course these sanctions, a form of economic warfare that is being waged by the United States against Russia, allegedly is targeting the circle of, quote, oligarchs that are close to Vladimir Putin, and they're, quote, designed to pressure Putin, and they absolutely won't. When we look at economic sanctions, they're a form of a conflict that usually has the absolute, utter opposite effect of what many neoconservatives who push them want to have. If we look at the sanctions in Iraq, in Cuba, in Venezuela, in North Korea, what the sanctions have done predominantly is hurt the average person, hurt the middle class, poor people in that country specifically, since of course the United States has global hegemony because of the U.S. petrodollar. The U.S. takes advantage of that situation and takes countries and individuals out of those markets, not allowing them to have the ability to transact on the world stage. This severely impacts people and predominantly severely impacts the poorest populations. Now, Biden soon will be announcing more remarks about Russia at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Most likely when this video is already out, we're going to be paying very close attention to it. I'm, of course, going to be tweeting about this situation since this is a very tumultuous situation, and Joe Biden's stance has been extremely aggressive on the backdrop of course, a lot of mainstream media propaganda against Russia as our chief adversary, while some of those same media outlets openly align and work with countries like China. Now, geopolitically, strategically, it would be better for the United States to have better relations with Russia in order to, of course, more effectively be able to counter China, since, of course, Russia and China are also at odds. They're each other's neighbors. But the United States' aggressive actions against both of the countries has been creating many opportunities for China and Russia to align, which they have been conveniently doing, specifically with financial markets, especially on the backdrop of China trying to, of course, counter this U.S. petrodollar. Russia is, of course, trying to do the same. China, just by the way, created its own digital currency. Russia has also done a similar move. Both of the countries are making significant moves against the U.S. dollar and its system. And again, as I previously said before, I do believe this situation was a lot more serious than even a lot of people are aware of, as of course the United Kingdom and Poland also just summoned their Russian ambassadors to their home countries in order to discuss a lot of these larger ramming up of tensions between these two world powers. Now, in response to these larger sanctions that have been put on Russia, Russia is responding, pledging retaliation. It has summoned U.S. diplomats to its country in order to discuss this. As of course, as we talked about yesterday, there are Russian and now Ukrainian officials warning about the possibility of war soon breaking out. Why is it breaking out? Who's the benefit for it breaking out? Absolutely no one. It's ridiculous. It's dangerous. There should be a lot more diplomacy instead of hard-headedness. This is all over Ukraine, which the United States and the European Union want under its own sphere of influence, which of course Russia previously had. Russia does not want to lose Ukraine because if they do, they understand and they know that geopolitically this is a massive threat to them since, of course, Ukraine and Russia share a massive border. One of the red lines that Russia has previously drawn is telling NATO specifically not to interfere in its relations with its neighbors and not to have a military buildup on their border. And it looks like the U.S. military-industrial complex, Joe Biden, and NATO are hell-bent on doing that. As, of course, a lot of this has been started after many attempts by the Biden administration in order trying to grasp Ukraine under more of its sphere of influence. This is being contested. Will there be a conflict? Well, to be quite honest with you, the chances of that are rare because of mutually assured destruction, but the fact that there still is a chance should be utterly terrifying because if there is a conflict, it's not only going to have massive human ramifications, but could spill out all over Europe, all over the world, and would be absolutely devastating. And the fact that there is a chance of this happening, even though small, is terrifying in my opinion. That's my take on it. Let me know what you think. If you think I was wrong, if you think I missed an important fact about this current situation, let me know down in the comment section below. I always appreciate constructive criticism. I always appreciate having an honest, real dialogue. And I also appreciate the trolls. Whether it's my snozzle, my voice, my Kermit the Frog voice, whatever it is, I appreciate you guys engaging, sharing this video with your friends and family members more than ever. Also, there was another insane announcement by the Pfizer CEO. By the way, we're going to be talking about that on LukeUncensored.com. If you haven't signed up yet, sign up right now, 50 cents a day, for the real videos about the topics that we cannot discuss here that we are going to be going in full detail of. I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on WeAreChange.org.